Let's move over to the aforementioned New York Jets. They had quite an interesting offseason in terms of drama and such, and still are attracting headlines, but that I guess that'd be New York, right? So in terms of departures, they let go of offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, quarterback Joe Flacco, running back James Robinson, a couple offensive linemen and tackle Cedric Ogbuehi, Nate Herbig, and tackle George Fant. And then on defense, lost defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, who's pretty solid for them, defensive end Vinny Curry, linebacker Quan Alexander, and safety LaMarcus Joyner. But obviously the bigger news is their additions. Brought in offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett from Denver, who, like we mentioned in the Denver episode, caught some flack from Sean Payton, but Sean tried to walk it back, and then Rodgers clapped back his whole thing. And then obviously, just mentioned, brought in quarterback Aaron Rodgers via the trade with the Packers after his darkness retreat, and then also brought in offensive lineman Billy Turner, who actually can play guard, tackle a few different spots, and obviously knows that offensive system well, as formerly being in Green Bay with the Packers during Hackett's tenure. And then brought in a couple wide receivers, obviously a couple Packers, and Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard. And then also brought in wide receiver Mecole Hardman from the Chiefs to add to that growing wide receiver room. And then on defense, added defensive lineman Al Woods and Quentin Jefferson. And then also recently brought in safety Adrian Amos, who seemed to be Chuck Clark insurance and he unfortunately got injured after they traded for him, who, as I'll mention now, they also traded for him. But he will be out likely for the year. And then in the draft, they went and grabbed edge rusher Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State in round 1, pick 15. Center Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin at round 2, pick 43. And in the 4th round, grabbed tackle Carter Warren out of Pittsburgh and at pick 112. So, John, obviously they added Aaron Rodgers. In theory, the quarterback position should be fixed. All the Jet fans were saying that was what was holding them back. So are you buying into the Super Bowl aspirations here, or do you think there should be at least a playoff team?
Or I had myself muted. Let me restart. You're going to have to cut that.
Understood.
I think with this, the Super Bowl it's just a bold take. I think they can be a playoff team. And I say can because it's a competitive division. I mean, as you just said, there's a possibility the Patriots can be feisty, maybe take some games off these teams like the Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills. And, and it's even for the Jets, it's not going to be easy to play against Miami or Buffalo. That's not even accounting for the rest of their schedule, where I believe they're playing the NFC East. So they got to play Philly. They have to play Dallas, which Aaron Rodgers is probably happy about because he has a good history against us. But point being, though, even the NFC East had 3 playoff teams last year, right? So they're going to have a tough schedule. So I don't know if I'm on board saying Super Bowl this year. I think I like a lot of what they have. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, you already know I'm a massive Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson fan, as they were my number one running back and receiver in last year's class. Then we have Sauce Gardner, who we both were big fans on, as he was the number 1 corner for both of us. So I like a lot of what they have. And then you have some other veteran options like Quinnen Williams, who's really finally come into his own. CJ Mosley's a solid linebacker. You know, as you said, they added Adrian Amos. So I like what they got. I'm just not sure if immediately this is the year. Now, that said, I do think that they've improved a lot of the things that I viewed as pretty large weaknesses. Notably like the receiver depth after Garrett Wilson. Like we thought that Elijah Moore was going to be one of those guys. He didn't really fit in, so they jettison him to Cleveland, and then they add Lazard and Randall Cobb and Hardman, like you said. And I like those additions because I think that Garrett Wilson's going to be your true number one guy. And I think that he has the capability of doing that. And then Lazard being your number two, like there's the familiarity with the scheme, with the quarterback, all that stuff. So I think it'll work really well. I still have some questions about the offensive line, although I do think they're absolutely improving. Like I love Laken Tomlinson, Elijah Vera Tucker as your two guards. I think that Connor McGovern, this is a different Connor McGovern, by the way. Buffalo has one as well, who was the former Cowboy.
Yeah.
It's
very confusing.
Yeah, this is the better Connor McGovern, in my opinion. But he's playing center. But like him, I would say, Max Mitchell on the right side. I'm still not necessarily sold on the tackles. Even like I like Billy Turner. I think I'd be more confident about him than the other two, especially since Billy Turner's like he's a veteran. He's been around the league for a long time. But still, I'm not super sure on the tackles in the center yet. So we'll see. Also, Mekhi Becton and I think Dwayne Brown are still on the roster. But I think Dwayne Brown is dealing with injuries, so I don't know his status. When he comes back, like he's still solid. So anyway, point being, I like what they have. I'm just not sure that immediately this is a Super Bowl team. I think they can be a wild card team because I don't foresee them winning this division. I could be wrong, but I don't foresee that happening. But who knows? Who knows? You got a really good defense. You have Aaron Rodgers who can make some plays. You got a great running back and Breece Hall with Michael Carter behind him. Who knows?
Yeah. I am optimistic about their tackle position just because I'm a fan of Mekhi Becton, and from all reports, he's put an effort into his body, I guess. I don't know. That's a very vague phrase, but he obviously been working out, and preventing injury has been a big point of concern for him this offseason. So we'll see if he can actually stay healthy. And it seems like the Jets are kind of playing it careful too, because it seemed like last year both sides kind of rushed into things, and obviously he got hurt in training camp. But I think he could be a big boost to that offensive line, and especially that run game. We all know can be a mauler. So and then I think even though I didn't have Aaron Rodgers in my top 10, which was a huge point of contingency, like I said in that video, I think, and this obviously will be a better situation than Green Bay, and maybe the whole New York new team, he may be a little revitalized and obviously be healthier. Maybe I could see Rodgers going back to kind of the MVP form a bit, taking more chances because he's got a really good defense behind him. He's got definitely a better, I won't say better, but young receiver in Garrett Wilson, who many feel is a rising star, and rightly so. And then even like you mentioned with the wide receiver room, some familiarity there, familiar system with Nathaniel Hackett, and obviously some of these pieces. So and then the defense, I don't expect them to fall off a cliff. I'm always concerned just because it's hard to stay a very good defense in the NFL. But I still suspect them that they'll be a top 10, top 5 defense in that range, as long as the key pieces, Gardner, Quinnen Williams, and Mosley, and also I always forget Quinnen Williams' brother's first name, but he's a very good linebacker for them too. So
Quincy Williams.
Quincy, thank you. I knew it was a Q, but I was blanking on Q names because that's not in my that's not my database. Not a lot of those. So, but yeah, Quincy, he's been very solid for them as well. And we all know Robert Saleh, defensive mind, and he's just a great motivator, as we all see on the sidelines. He's always hyping people up. So, yeah, I expect the Packers will, or not the Packers. The Jets will make the playoffs as long as Rodgers is back there, and even if Rodgers gets hurt, Zach Wilson may be solid enough, but nonetheless, with Rodgers, pushes them a little bit, obviously, into a higher window. And we'll see if he can kind of revitalize, make a late career push here for another ring with the Jets. But once again, I want to reiterate, wishing all the best for Aaron, and hopefully it works out here for the Jets. for their sake, because obviously there's a lot of hype around this, and I'm sure Jets fans will not like it if it turns sour, but unlikely won't. As they go ahead.
I was going to say, and I will say, we will have a little bit better picture of the Jets compared to most teams because they will be on Hard Knocks.
Yes, that too, and even though they didn't want to be, which understandably so. And we already saw them in the Hall of Fame game, which I know doesn't mean much, but we saw some of their lesser players, go out and play, and we'll see preseason and stuff, obviously with all teams. So we'll see how that line gels, and hopefully their tackles can get healthy and stay healthy, but who knows at that point. But that is the AFC East. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, should be a very competitive division, and they play the AFC West, unfortunately, so that's tough. And they also play your Cowboys or your division as a whole in the NFC East too. So